We are joined by Denon. He is a former ambassador to the United Nations for Israel right now, a member of the Knesset for Israel. He's also been key at showing those who have traveled to Israel the horrendousness of the attacks that occurred in Israel on October 7th and how Israel has responded to the attacks by Iran. And Denon, a great friend of the ACLJ, joining us today on the broadcast. And Ambassador Denon, let me ask you first today to respond to these reports that the International Criminal Court is looking at issuing arrest warrants for certain Israelis that they want to bring before the court for war crimes.
Jordan, this is outrageous to see the diplomatic terrorism of the Palestinian Authority. Instead of condemning Hamas and actually putting them on trial, they are trying to put our leadership, including Prime Minister Netanyahu and other dignitaries, on court. I still hope that it will not happen and that it's only a rumor. But if that will be the case in the next few days, that will be a new era. And I think we expect our allies, mainly the U.S., to take action. So I hope our allies will stand with us and will not allow this circus to take place.
You know, Ambassador Denon, one thing you said is that you expect the United States to stand with you. And I think the American people will. I know the ACLJ, which has gone to the ICC on behalf of the United States military before, on behalf of Israel before. But this time around, things may be different with this administration. And we're concerned that they might not push back and that we're concerned that they might let these ICC, again, these indictments move forward. You mentioned Prime Minister Netanyahu. It could be other members, directors of the military. How concerned are Israelis about the International Criminal Court? Because it is something the United States has tried to stay away from and kept away from for so long.
Well, we are concerned, but we have a lot to deal with. We are still dealing with bringing back the hostages. We have war with Hezbollah in the north. So that's another front. But I think it will be a problem, and we're trying to do our best to prevent it from taking place. But one thing I can tell you, even if it will happen, we are determined to finish the job. We are determined to win this war against evil, against Hamas. So no one will stop us. Not the ICC, not the ICJ. We will do whatever it takes to win Hamas. We haven't forgotten what they did to us and what they are planning to do to us in the future. Those things should not be repeated.
So it seems to me like, Ambassador Denon, even if the ICC tries to make some unprecedented move and the international community allows them to do that you are ready and Israel is ready and the Israeli people are ready to say, regardless of their politics, we are going to finish the job with Hamas. We're going to finish the job with whatever Hezbollah is trying to do. And we're not going to let Iran scare us with feeling like they can just shoot ballistic missiles at Israel whenever they feel like it.
We have no other choice, Jordan. We have no other options. We know that if we show weakness, we will get more enemies on our borders. And those enemies are worse than ISIS, worse than Al-Qaeda. We have seen what they are capable of doing. So we are determined to stand strong and proud. And I want to thank you and our friends worldwide who pray for us and stand with us. We know we are not alone. But, it's like the biblical times when we were small, but we prevailed. And I believe in our strength, in our power, in our determination to win Hamas and to make sure that any enemy will think twice before they attack us again.
Well, we need to talk a little bit about the International Criminal Court because I think it's something that people don't even really know exists. I'll be honest that before we got really deeply involved, I had no idea the level of the International Criminal Court, really what it looks like. And when you see the visuals of it, like I said, it's a spooky, spooky place with robes and clean white walls. And it feels like something out of a, futuristic dystopian society. But of course, it's what happened in the world. It's when you think of a George Orwell in 1984, when you think of a New World Order, it's kind of what it feels like. And it kind of is what it is.
Right. So the International Criminal Court was developed out of a treaty known as the Rome Statute. That statute and that treaty was signed back in the late 90s, but then the court, it took a while to build up, and it entered into its existence in 2002. So a relatively young international body compared to some of these others that we talk about, like the UN. But effectively, there's 124 member states, and the goal and mission of the International Criminal Court is to investigate and prosecute things that are more global in nature, like genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and things of that nature.
UN of courts.
Right. Yes, it is very
much. It's a way
much.
to kind of...
Although there is the International Court of Justice, which is a UN body.
Okay.
So they do get, it's like two competing sports leagues, per se. And you got the Arena Football League, and then you got the NFL.
Dystopian? Who is more globalist?
But some states are not a party to this. Like the United States is not a party to the International Criminal Court. We don't want to cede jurisdiction over our own people to an international body. And so, not surprisingly, some countries like China and India and Russia, now these countries also don't cede this authority to the International Criminal Court. But many smaller countries, South America, some European countries, some countries in Africa are state parties to this, meaning that they have jurisdiction to investigate war crimes and things of that nature. A lot of times they're going after former Soviet bloc countries where there may be genocide or crimes against humanity or things of that nature. But it's also a place that Jack Smith, this special counsel investigating Donald Trump, he was a Justice Department lawyer that went over then to work as a prosecutor at the ICC. So it has a broad scope and mandate, but it does have limitations based off if the countries are a party to that. Now, Israel is not a party to it, but it doesn't stop the ICC from trying to gain jurisdiction over people that it believes have committed crimes or that it wants to investigate crimes of. And the problem here would be if they do issue arrest warrants for someone like Benjamin Netanyahu, it would severely limit Prime Minister Netanyahu's ability to go to places like Europe, because European countries that are a party to this statute, to the Rome Statute and the International Criminal Court, would be obligated to enforce an arrest warrant of a leader that travels to their country that there's an open warrant from the court on him. So it does start to get dicey if they start to issue an arrest warrant on someone like Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
We're here at the ACLJ. You've been a part of the team now for years. To be able to have a team that can go to the ICC, to have a team that can now engage with these college campuses, make sure that we're protecting the rights of Jewish and what they say Zionist students, or really all of us, probably evangelicals, are included in that. The work of the ACLJ really matters. And of course, we are here at the end. We're only a day away from the end of our life in Liberty Drive, but you've been a major part of that. And I want to thank you. But also, if you could also tell people what it's like to be a part of that team.
I think the perfect example of the importance of ACLJ is what we're about to talk about with the ICC. I spent 8 years at the UN. The ICC is an international court that the UN oversees in many ways. And to be able to impact this international court and what it's trying to do in terms of going after Americans, U.S. soldiers consistently, or our allies like Israel, you have to have an international legal team that understands the UN and understands the systems that they put in place in Europe. That is ACLJ. We don't just talk about issues. One of the reasons I joined ACLJ is because we actually have teams that dig deep and fight in the best possible way, not just through the newspaper, not through a press release or a tweet highlighting the problem, but we actually tackle the problem by going in and having great legal arguments and political arguments to try to stop what's happening on the international stage. That's the game. I can tell you from being on the opposite side at the State Department, at the UN, you have to have organizations that understand the fight and know the process like ACLJ. We're putting in the time, we're putting in the work, we have experts, and that's how you win, not just complaining on Twitter.
If you can't just say, oh, they're bad. You actually have to have someone who can go in and work within the system to get things done. And we can't do that without your support. So I encourage you, thank you, Rick, to go to aclj.org right now. Life and Liberty Drive. All donations are doubled and matched for the next 24 hours. So make sure you go and do that right now if you can, or do it during our break. But I wanted to break that down a little bit more, Will, about our work and what's going on with the ICC.
That's right. And with the ICC, now, Israel is no stranger to being targeted by the UN and the ICC, unfortunately. But it would be a little unprecedented to see something like arrest warrants for the prime minister, especially during the active, ongoing campaign against Hamas. What practically would this do in this short term if these arrest warrants were put out by the ICC for top leadership in Israel?
Well, first of all, this is very real. I would believe these people when they show you who they are. The ICC lawyers, just like the Hague International Court lawyers, Jack Smith, for instance, who I know personally indicted the president of Kosovo when the president of Kosovo was on his way to cut a historic deal at the Oval Office with Donald Trump. Jack Smith didn't want Donald Trump to get a win. Now Jack Smith is manipulating our laws in the United States to go after Donald Trump. This is what this international court system has. Our lawyers who are protected to do this international type investigation, they don't comply with domestic laws. They make up their own rules. They think that they are above everything. So if an ICC lawyer is going to issue an indictment on an Israeli, this is a real thing. We've tried to stop the ICC. There's this thing called Article 99 of the Rome Statute, which allowed for the ICC. And the Article 99 allows countries to opt out and be protected. And so the United States has gone around before we've done international military operations or any type of operations. We've tried to get an Article 99 allowing us to be protected. It doesn't always work, but that's how you work within the system. I would believe these people. It could be devastating to the political process in Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. That is why we are taking action at the ICC right now, and you can be a part of that and help us do that, as well as on the college campuses right now as we are figuring out ways to take action. I know a lot of times we come on here, we have to report what's going on, but in the background, the ACLJ team is working nonstop. Of course, they're in the big bill. You can support that at aclj.org.